friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about home birth, and I know that this can kind of be a controversial topic a bit just when it comes to making decisions about how you're going to bring your baby into the world and how you're going to parent your baby after they come into the world. It can be a very hot button topic because so many women will make so many different decisions. So I just want to preface this video by saying that although I'll be talking about my own personal choices, I don't want to cast any sort of negativity on any other woman who's watching this, or any other woman who you may know personally who has made a different choice for their own circumstances. But without further ado, let's get into having a home birth. So first, I want to give you a little bit of a backstory with me in terms of how I was first exposed to home birth, because that kind of goes into my first reason for choosing it. Personally, I come from a family of 5, and all of me and my brothers and sisters, we were actually all home birth babies, and I actually ended up being a free birth. I actually came so fast that they had called the midwife, but my mom ended up giving birth to me on the side of the bed, and my dad caught me when I came out. So I had always grown up with that story of me just coming so quickly. She did call the midwife. The midwife was on her way, but I just came faster than the midwife could come, and my dad was the one who caught me coming out. So I came actually 2 days before his birthday, so we have a big bond with that. So I was always exposed to my birth story like that, and I was also exposed to stories of my aunt, my mom's younger sister, who had many successful home births of her own. I want to say 10 home birth babies is what she had. And so I was always surrounded by these generations of women before me who had chosen to pursue home births, had positive, good, happy experiences and stories with them, which they then passed down through generations, and I had just grown up with that exposure. Now recently, actually, my sister, she had a home birth with my niece Aria, and my niece just turned 2, so she gave birth to my niece 2 years ago at home, and I actually attended that birth. So I was there, I saw my niece Aria come into the world. That was such a magical moment. I am so glad that I was able to experience that, and that gave me just a really good experience as an adult looking at home birth. That all brings me to my first reason for choosing to pursue a home birth for myself is because I have always been exposed to it and I've always been comfortable with it. That is not the story for many, many women, and I do understand that and I am aware of that, but that's kind of the foundation for this whole journey, is that I've always been exposed to home birth, I've always been around it and very familiar and comfortable with the concept of it. When we had discovered that we were pregnant, I still wasn't 100% on board the home birth train quite yet. I was still kind of in the place where, okay, well, I kind of had always been leaning towards it and thinking, yes, maybe this is actually something that I would be open to. And my husband and I actually spoke kind of in our engagement phase / like late dating phase, early engagement phase, when we were talking about how many children do we want? Do we want kids? How do we want that process to go? What parenting choices are we going to make? And I actually had that conversation with him that I would consider doing home births once I got pregnant, and was hoping that he would be open to something like that. And he was open to it, and that was just something like, okay, well, let's just talk about it when the time comes. So that was actually kind of a serious prereq of mine when it came to a serious relationship, was that my significant other was open to the idea of home births. And still I was a little hesitant after being pregnant, and wanted to research just the differences between hospital birth and home birth to really look into the statistics, stories, the risks, and all of that. So I did a lot of research after learning and discovering that we were pregnant with our first baby in February of this year. I had a consultation with 3 different midwives in the area, and I watched probably 20 to 30 different home birth vlog videos over the course of about 3 months for all kinds of different labor choices. So I watched labor vlogs of women who were having home births, of women who were having hospital births, of women who were having unmedicated births in both the home birth setting and the hospital setting. And I just started writing down different language that they used to describe their experience, whether they said that they were, excited or scared or uncomfortable or worried. And also, I looked into intention at the start versus outcome at the end. Of course, when it comes to labor vlogs and things, the most traumatizing, hard stories for both situations are probably not going to make it onto a vlog, onto YouTube. So for the most part, I was seeing positive experiences for both things. Doing that research was really powerful and really telling. So then that leads me into the second reason why I am choosing to pursue a home birth, and that is the power to cultivate my own environment. So I did notice in all of this, YouTube birth vlog research that there was a lot of autonomy that women had when they were choosing home births with cultivating an environment of their choosing, whether that was having music on that they wanted, whether it was having dim lighting, the certain kind of people in the room whom they wanted, mobility such as freedom of birthing position, such as the ability to eat during labor. There's a lot of different things that you may be restricted on when you are in a different setting, because usually the standard is to monitor as soon as you are admitted and to get you hooked up to an IV as soon as you are admitted as well. And I know that you can make special exceptions to that, but I just kind of didn't want to go down that path of resistance almost, of kind of trying to make special requests as opposed to the environment being cultivated myself. Also, moving around, having mobility, having the ability to get into different positions as I labored, to be able to get in and out of the water, because I know that I want to incorporate water into the laboring process, if not by having an actual water birth. And so the home just allowed that absolute freedom to be able to dictate what I wanted in my own environment. The third reason why I am choosing to pursue a home birth is because I want the entire process to be led by my own body's timing. I know also that this can be a controversial topic, but just for me personally, I could see kind of the arbitrariness behind due date selection and having a one-size-fits-all formula. Just realizing how varied my own cycles can be from each other, and how women are expected to have, a 28-day cycle on the dot, and how I would always go, more so to 30, but then it was normal for me to fall in a cycle of, anywhere from 26 days to 35 days. And I was just thinking, women can be so varied and so unique when it comes to their timing in terms of when they're even just having their monthly cycle. How much more unique are they going to be when it comes to baby coming into the world, whether it's on a 40-week mark, a 38-week mark, a 42-week mark. It just seemed like due dates were kind of this one-size-fits-all formula. I just wanted the ability to be able to allow my body to go into labor naturally. I do want to say, though, with this particular point, that 42 weeks, even midwives won't let you go past 42 weeks. There is a cutoff even for being more on the patient side and on the waiting side. At 42 weeks, there are natural ways to induce a woman's body into labor at that point where you're getting over term. And also, once I do go into labor, to not be rushed on a specific timeline or timetable when it came to that labor process, and that anxiety and stress would be lifted from me. So that was a huge reason as well. Reason number 4 why I am choosing to pursue a home birth for this pregnancy, I realized in all of my consultations with midwives that midwives are medically trained professionals. Now, there is different certifications for midwives that I discovered in my whole research process. There is a CNM, which is a certified nurse midwife. There is a CM, which is a certified midwife. And then there's a CPM, which is a certified professional midwife. Now, with all of these 3 certifications, I actually did know the midwives that I was meeting with, who is a certified nurse midwife, who is a certified professional midwife. What I was able to realize through meeting with all of these is just how prepared they were for a variety of circumstances to arise. And in their prenatal care, they're able to do everything that your prenatal care at your OBGYN would be able to do for you as well. So I realized that I was still getting a very high level of prenatal care by selecting a midwife, but also I had a lot of, flexibility and ability to kind of cater the process to how I wanted it to be for my own body. So I really liked that flexibility and that freedom with it as well. So the 5th reason why I chose to pursue a home birth is because of just this overwhelming piece that I had through all of this research and these consultations with midwives and watching all of these birth vlogs. I just thought, okay, what is my ideal birth experience? What does it look like? If everything were to go well, what is my plan A, option A? And after asking myself those questions, I realized that it was a home birth and that I would specifically like to pursue a water birth at home. And that if, any kind of emergency situation were to arise, that's where your birth plan comes into action and you create a plan A, you create a plan B, a plan C, and a plan D, so that okay, if this isn't happening according to plan, if, this ideal experience doesn't play out, then this will be the experience or this will be the experience. And so realizing that, okay, I can move forward and advance with a plan A, with just my ideal structure of how I'd like it to go. And if it doesn't pan out like that, just having the ability and open mind and flexibility to realize and be okay with whatever outcome brings a healthy baby boy into the world. Now I want to address some questions because I opened up my personal Instagram page just to friends and family to see if there were any questions beyond the kind of frequently asked questions that I often get when it comes to home birth. And I collected all of those, so I'm going to address those extra questions about our decision to pursue a home birth. Question number 1, were you inspired by Laura's home birth? Now, like I said earlier in this video, Laura is my sister. She is actually my younger sister by 2 years, and she chose to home birth baby Aria. Now, like I said, I was definitely inspired by her home birth, but I was leaning towards that decision just for years of myself with my mom's home birth. So I would say that yes, I was inspired by her home birth, but also seeing and knowing the experiences of my own mom and my aunt and of other women who had gone through with successful home births. You're able to see a midwife in action and what she's able to do and how the process is working, and kind of feel also the intensity of the birth experience. That was something that I was really kind of riveted by, was how intense the experience was. And that's something you can't really understand or grasp until you've either gone through birth yourself or attended someone else's birth, is just how intense the whole process can be. So it actually gave me kind of a more realistic and sobering perspective on birth itself. Question number 2 was, are you and Paul on the same page about home birth / was it hard to convince him into home birth? So like I also said at the beginning of this video, that was kind of a prereq when it came to when we were seriously dating, and I brought up the topic of home birth, just that he was at least open to home birth. So when we were talking about home birth, I actually was leaning more towards kind of a birthing center concept where I could have access and quick access to emergency services if need be, while still having kind of the flexibility and the autonomy over my environment that a birthing center may provide. So that was actually my first choice option after we had gotten pregnant, and my husband, obviously, he was very on board with that because we were already open about the idea of home birth, but there is no birthing center in our area. Actually, when I was deciding between, doing a hospital or a home birth after the birth center option was kind of taken away just through circumstance, that is when kind of my husband helped encourage me towards home birth. He knew that I had been leaning there for a long time anyways, and I had talked about it lots, and just his calm around it, I think, has really helped. And I know that there are certain aspects of the birthing process that intimidates him and intimidates both of us, and we won't fully understand the full picture until we're going through it ourselves. I'm really excited to pursue it with him, and we are on the same page. We are on board. I think it is extremely important to be on the same page with your significant other because they are going to be your rock and your support system through the process. Next, there was a question about cost. The question is, how does the cost compare to giving birth in a hospital? Now, cost, I think, is a very interesting question when it comes to home birth. Now, hospital births themselves, I think, are more pricey than a lot of people realize. You're giving birth in a hospital, I guess, depending on your insurance situation or kind of what procedures were administered during the process, it is probably going to be thousands of dollars. Of kind of a 3 to an 8,000 zone is what I've just heard from friends and from people who I have heard about talk about costs for hospital birth. So I'm sure that can vary, but if you do have insurance, somewhere within the 3 to 8,000 zone is probably what you're going to end up paying out of pocket. And for a home birth in the area that I live in, because this may change drastically depending on where you live, but it is typical that the out-of-pocket cost for a midwife and for the full, because you're paying for the full prenatal services that you're getting throughout your entire pregnancy, usually the cost is about $5,000. That is pretty typical across the board, but actually what helped influence our decision towards the midwife that we chose is that our insurance actually covers home birth. I was pretty amazed when we discovered that. And the midwife that we are using actually works with our insurance, and she is a provider listed underneath this insurance. And so we are not paying anything out of pocket for her. We pay for certain procedures like getting ultrasounds done, or when we go into lab testing, such as getting, a prenatal blood panel done. So I would then pay for that blood work. So it just kind of depends on the structure and, how that all works. But for me, our home birth is actually fully covered by our insurance through our midwife, so we aren't paying anything out of pocket for that. Next, there was a question on the difference between midwives and doulas and how I went about choosing one over the other. Now, a midwife is the medically trained professional that will be attending your birth. They are the person who is certified either as a nurse midwife or as a professional midwife. They're certified through some kind of certification process. They have the resources and ability to administer certain emergency related things, such as, emergency procedures for a baby who may not be breathing right away, or medication in case the mom is hemorrhaging after birth. They have the ability to administer all of those things at your birth. If you tear, for example, they have the ability to give you local anesthesia and to stitch you after you tear. And so they're able to perform all of that. A doula, on the other hand, is more of an emotional support during birth. So a doula, you can actually get a doula and have your doula attend your hospital birth setting, and that I think is a really, really cool, good way to go. If we decided to go with the hospital system, I 100% would have selected a doula for us to go there. And so a doula can be the one who is kind of like a best friend during labor, a knowledgeable best friend, someone who is able to help you through different massages or positions, and someone who you can message or text back and forth as you're having, contractions a certain length away from each other. It's kind of more of an immediate, personal, knowledgeable best friend, I would say, is kind of the doula role. You do hire them separately than a midwife, and usually the cost for them, I want to say, is around, it can be anywhere from I think $500 to $1,500 for a doula to attend your birth. And so that is kind of something that you do separately from a midwife. But that's kind of the breakdown between midwives versus doula. We have a midwife right now, and we're actually debating on whether or not we're going to have a doula attend our birth. Then the next question that I got was about the birth certificate process. Now, this is actually a really good question, and your midwife will actually handle the birth certificate process for you and get it initiated. So in the first appointment that I had with my midwife, or after our consultation, our first prenatal appointment, she actually gathered a bunch of information from me for it, and she is the one to initiate and kind of issue that process for us. Now, I haven't really looked into kind of the follow through of that or what that looks like, but I do know that she collected a lot of information for us in order to get the birth certificate process initiated, and she will be the one to help us do that. Your midwife will record, time of birth. She will weigh your baby when your baby is born. She'll do measurements and all of that. So all of that will be recorded, and she will be the one to initiate and to help you out with the birth certificate process. And then the last question, and a very valid one, is, are you scared at all? Now, this is a super good question. I think that is a huge barrier preventing people from maybe moving forward with like a home birth if they do want to. And I would say that yes, there is some fear. I think because it is my first time going into labor, it'll be my first time giving birth to a baby, that I can research and look into things as much as I want, and for hours on end I can do that. But when it comes time to it actually happening, the feelings, the pressure, the intensity, all of that is going to be completely new. We fear what it is we don't know, or we fear what it is we don't understand. I think it's just preparing yourself every step of the way, because yes, there is I think, healthy amount of fear, because it is just so intense, is bringing a new baby into the world. If there wasn't any fear, then I think maybe there would be a lack of either research or understanding of the intensity of it, or understanding kind of the risks of the whole process as well. But by far what brings peace is just knowing and trusting on a deep level, and your body knows what to do. So a lot of it is just trusting your own intuition, trusting your body, having, for me, the faith-based side is a huge component. So just having knowledge and faith that you are going to be protected and taken care of and provided for, having faith in your birth team that you're selecting, and understanding that they know and want what's best for you, so they're going to help you make decisions in the moment that is going to lead to your health and your safety, and your baby's health and their safety. And I think a lot of it is just to overcome that fear aspect, is just trust in your birth plan and a open-mindedness and willingness to just allow the birth to unfold however it may need to. So that is it. That is my heart behind why we chose to pursue a home birth ourselves, and we're just going in as prepared as we truly are able to. But I know that the process of giving birth will just be completely unique, and it'll probably catch me off guard no matter what happens, because it's something I have never experienced before, with it being a first baby. We are believing and trusting that God will keep us safe in the entire journey of bringing this little baby boy into the world. So that is our heart behind selecting home birth, and I am so happy and glad that you're able to watch this video. Please do comment down below any thoughts or feelings about home birth yourself. I would love to hear about your perspective. But thank you again so much for watching this video. I cannot wait to catch you on the next one.